Okay, so this is essentially just a training that goes over the basics of what the control sub-team actually is and what we do here on the team. Arunima and I are the co-leads. I'm Calvin. She is not here today. She is sick, but I've been on the team for a couple of years, and this is my first year on the sub-team. And we have two of our mentors here. We have Mr. Cirilla here today, as well as Mr. Rader. Mr. Peterson and Mr. Dean are not around, as far as I'm aware. I don't know what they're up to today, but...
Mr. Dean was one here earlier.
Yeah, here's one. Mr. Peterson. So what we actually do on the team, what the control sub-team actually does, is we essentially build the nervous system of the robot. We handle any electronics that are built, all of the code, and then if we're using pneumatics, we sort of manufacture that as well. So if mechanical kind of builds the actual robot, we make everything work. So the electronics, if we're using this metaphor of it being part of the nervous system, the electronics are sort of part of the brains and the actual neurons within that. We use industrial sort of level electronics components, some stuff that is used in like actual machinery and like factory floors, I believe some of the stuff has been used on. And what we kind of do is people that are on our team end up having like a great understanding of like how electronic concepts work and how those work together, as well as how to use all of these different tools to actually manufacture these things. And then programming is the information within that brain. We work with the coding language Java. People on our sub-team, we end up with a pretty in-depth understanding of how to code it, because instead of like a class or a lecture-based thing where you learn how to code, you can actually experiment with things and you can see exactly what changes you make and what they actually do to the robot. Pneumatics are something we use from time to time. They are not necessary, but if mechanical has something very specific they want to do, sometimes pneumatics are useful. Pneumatics are essentially air pressure that allow us to fire sort of pistons, which are just a straight rod that's pushed by air. So that allows us to do some different tasks, but nothing that is really standard, so they're kind of a if we need them kind of thing. Do you have any questions? Okay. And then there's a couple of different trainings this year, since this is just kind of a brief overview. There was the electronics concepts training. There's one this morning. There's going to be another one at some point later this week. There's a training on what all of our tools are, on the actual control system for first, so like what all of the components actually are within our competition. And then we go over sort of basic to advanced programming, depending on how into that part of the team you want to be involved in. And then there's a training on sort of the connections between software and hardware and sort of how those complement each other. And then we're going to have a demo, but not a full training on pneumatics, because it's unlikely that we'll end up needing them.
Can you just repeat after the demo? So you do the full training.
We're doing a demo for pneumatics because we don't necessarily need those.
Thank you.
Yeah. And then within that, there's a couple of projects that we're working on currently that people can get involved in. The universal controller is essentially a board that has all of the most valuable components in the robot, the core components electronically. And essentially the design is that we can take it off and move it from robot to robot depending on what we need. The experimentation board is similar, where it's just a board that's going to have a whole bunch of sensors and motors and all sorts of things on it for programmers to sort of experiment with how stuff works. The pneumatics board is something that's getting built, which is just partially for the demo, actually, is going to just be a board that has sort of the basic layouts of a pneumatic system on it. And then the motor controller board is part of the universal controller, actually, where motor controllers, how many we need, varies depending on the robot. So the idea is to build a separate system so that we can have those be modular, similar to the universal board, where we can take them off and put on as many as we need. Anything else? I think this is the end of the presentation. Okay.
Good.
So Calvin, the upcoming training,
Yes.
will be a lot of hands-on opportunities, software, hardware?
I believe software is very hands-on. I'm not sure about hardware, actually. I believe to an extent it will be, but the most hands-on is getting involved with projects and just building something.
I think we'll try to do that.
Yeah. Thank you very much. I can turn this camera off that I forgot about.